Well, new research shows that women are leaving STEM careers, jobs in science, technology, engineering, and math, after the birth of their first child. And the numbers are high, more than 40%, according to the journal Nature. I spoke with Joya Misra, a professor of sociology at UMass Amherst, to learn more about this trend in a field that's trying to recruit more women.
It's really interesting work by Erin Setch and Mary Blair Loy, and what they did was they looked at a number of scientists and they followed them for 8 years. They started following them before they had any children, and then they looked and they followed people a few years later, 3 years later, and then 8 years later to see what happens. Some people have children, some people don't. And the key takeaway to the research is that women who have children are much more likely to leave their careers. Now, what's interesting here is that men also are more likely to leave those science careers, those STEM careers, if they have children during that time, but women are so much more likely that we know that it's a real issue.
I know they reported 40% will leave those jobs, and those are good paying jobs. Those are jobs that require degrees and probably masters. So what is it that doesn't support them to remain in that position?
I think it's a really difficult, I think it's both structural and cultural issues in those workplaces. So structurally, they could be set up so that you're having to work sort of all around the clock, or you need to be at the lab for, fairly long hours, and there's no recognition that you might have other things, like care responsibilities or other kinds of things at home. So I think that that's one real issue. I think another issue is just sort of a culture that assumes that everybody's going to be an ideal worker that has absolutely no care responsibilities. So there's just an assumption that no one is going to have anything that would be requiring their time outside of work hours. And that culture can be really difficult to challenge. Like if you don't see a lot of other mothers there, if you don't see a lot of other parents who are providing care for their children, it can feel like this isn't the place for me.
Right, and rather than fight it, I think it's easier in a way to leave because you feel like, I'm going to have to go in and explain that I have to pick up my son or daughter because he's sick, and then I'm going to get the look, and then I'm going to feel guilty as I'm walking out. I mean, those are real workplace issues that moms, and I'm sure dads, face on a daily basis in other careers as well. But to face that to that degree has to be difficult.
I think it's really difficult, especially as you said, because people have spent many, many years getting their educations, getting the degrees they need to in order to succeed in those careers. And then, if we can think about it like we've invested so much time in those careers as workers, our employers have invested so much in our time gaining the experience, and then after the birth of a child, everything shifts, and it's like all of those investments go sort of unrewarded.
And how do you change that, scenario for them, especially if they say to themselves, listen, I love this job, but someday I want to start a family?
Right. It's not all that hard. These are not like impossible things to deal with. They just take a little bit of intent. So over the last decade or so, both the National Science Foundation and the National Institutes of Health have done a great job of creating policies that say, for example, you have a big grant and you're going to have a baby, we're going to extend that grant. This is just totally a recognizable part of somebody's career. So they've been pretty focused on, hey, let's think structurally about how we can change the way we do things so that it is more welcoming and more possible for people with care responsibilities to remain in STEM. So that's one thing. Institutions can also do their part. So for example, if you're a scientist at UMass Amherst and you are in a tenure track job, you can take a semester of paid parental leave. That makes a huge difference. It doesn't necessarily mean, like people often will think, okay, so that means you just let go of science for those months that you're on parental leave. Really what it means is that maybe you're not teaching as much, you're not going to a lot of committee meetings, but you can keep your research going while you also have a small baby. Those kinds of policies make an enormous differences, and then as you have more and more women in any given department or any given workplace, it becomes much more like, oh yeah, of course, this is completely reasonable.
We're going to kind of take care of each other and cover each other.
Exactly. We're going to do this, and it's a very short, like what we're usually talking about is just a couple years out of somebody's life where they need a little extra support. And then you'll have decades more of that investment paying off.
And I'm sure for those companies as well, since they have invested in those employees, it has to serve them to be flexible and to be supportive, because now they have to go and find somebody else and they're starting all over again.
Exactly. You know, why start all over again? Why invest in somebody else's training and develop their expertise when you know that it's going to be a revolving door and you're just going to keep losing people? Making these shifts makes a lot of sense.
And when you're looking at other careers aside from STEM, are there other careers that are typically more family friendly?
There are some jobs, so really when we look at jobs that are like sort of thought to be family friendly, a lot of times in the literature we talk about them as having compensating differentials. Most of them are not really. So a lot of jobs that are actually dominated by women are with very set schedules, like say working as a administrator or staff person. There'll be very set schedules, not a lot of flexibility in terms of taking care of kids. Teachers are one of the groups that people talk about a lot, and it's very true that if you have summers off and your children have summers off, that can be like a wonderful thing. During the school year, though,
there's no flexibility. You're working.
You're working. Your child is sick. You're working.
Right.
There's not a lot of flexibility. So there's not, you know, really the jobs that are the best in terms of supporting care and employment are ones in which there's a little bit of flex in the schedule and there's a little bit of recognition that that flexibility is okay for lots of different reasons. It's not just mothers who might need it, but everybody might need it.
Right. How would you encourage young women and, you know, and young men who, you know, are going to get their degree, and obviously they're going to have to pay off their student loans, so they need that nice big job. But how would you advise them to choose a career, especially if they're thinking, you know, long term, I want to start a family? And I know that a lot of younger people will put off that time frame until they're established. But how do you advise them?
Well, I definitely think it's true that there are a lot of companies in the United States that try to get the very best workers by saying, look at these great policies we have. So one thing is just trying to find out what kinds of policies are in place in that workplace. Another thing in interviewing is to look around. And if you see a pretty diverse set of workers, it's likely that there is a little bit more flexibility. If it seems like a workplace in which everybody is working 24/7 and it's more men than women, it's unlikely that it's going to work as well.
If people wanted to learn more about this issue, are there, you know, references out there that they can look at?
So there's this really interesting book called Failing Families, Failing Science by Eklund and Lincoln. And one of the really interesting takeaways in that book, where they followed both biologists and physicists, and physics has a much less family-friendly culture than biology does. They followed both biologists and physicists, and the key thing that they found out was that it was not just women, but men that were really leaving these jobs because of perceived inflexibility. And so the failing science piece of that is really to just say that we're losing a lot of great workers in STEM because we don't have a system that is meant to support having children, having families.